Hey, what's up, Pistons fans, and welcome to another edition of Pistons Daily, a podcast where we bring you daily content about your Detroit Pistons. My name is Tony Nash. I'm your host, and what a tough weekend to be a Michigan sports fan. I'll tell you what, we had a Red Wings loss, we had two Pistons losses, we had that Lions loss on Thanksgiving, and to round it all out, we had Michigan get smacked on Saturday by Ohio State. Of course, we kind of knew it was coming. Hasn't been a great year for Michigan football. So man, it was tough. And I'm going into the game Saturday, I'm thinking I cannot have another loss tonight. And of course, our Pistons got it done Saturday night. We're going to talk about all of it. Remember, we're on the road to 2,500 subscribers. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. I would really, really appreciate it. And hit that notification bell so that you can be made aware right away when we drop new content for you. We want you to get it first. And so let's get right into this weekend. Obviously, on the last episode, we already talked about Wednesday's loss against the Celtics. So let's start with that Magic game on Friday night. I was at the game, and it was an emotional roller coaster. We started the game off really strong, really hot, came out ready, came out playing hard. And I'm going to talk about this a lot today, but we started messing with the rotations. Sometimes I feel like too early or combinations of guys, and I realized JB is trying to figure it out. But certainly that second rotation started to really disrupt our flow. Orlando caught rhythm, and it really never stopped. We really couldn't catch up after we lost that big lead we had at the beginning. That's 2 games in a row that we lost by 3 points, and we did not play well. And Boston is a respectable team, and Orlando is a good team. And so to play as bad as we did and still be right in those games, there's a lot of positive we can take away from that. But certainly there's a lot to be worked on and a lot of things that needs to be done to continue to build on this momentum that we created early here in this season. And so obviously we know Friday night was a NBA Cup game, and the winner went to the elimination round. And of course, we did not win, and so we were eliminated from the NBA Cup, which I know is disappointing to our guys. It's something we mentioned early in the season that we wanted to win this year. So an early season disappointment, my opinion, these types of things, this type of adversity is good for our guys. We'd rather them experience this now than when we get to the NBA playoffs. So the feeling, the hurt of that loss and what we have to do to adjust, hopefully that sinks in deep with these guys, and it gives the coaches things to build off. It shows them the glaring mistakes that need to be improved, and we just build on it. There's a lot of season in front of us, and so these experiences are good for our young guys. These guys need to go through the trenches. I mean, the only thing that's really going to be a challenge for us really is these guys haven't been tested that much because they're young. And so going through this adversity and going through these experiences is only going to be a good thing for our team going forward as long as we bounce back and do the right things. Friday night, we had 12 different guys see the floor. Again, we did that 12-man rotation. Only 9 guys scored. So we had 3 guys who did not score on Friday night. We only had 3 guys in double digits. This is the first game in a while that we haven't had at least 5 guys in double digits. We only had 3 guys in double digits. Of course, Cade had a masterful performance, a 39-point triple-double, 13 rebounds, 11 assists. Just an incredible game. Of course, made some mistakes down the stretch that we're going to talk about in a second, but you can't blame Cade. He had just an incredible game and tried to put the team on his back, but we really just didn't get much from anyone else. Nobody else really had a significant game. Tobias had 18, so it's a good game for Tobias, but nothing that really moved the needle. JD had 16, and so those 2 guys did their thing, but nobody else really was that second option that made the defense have to really adjust, which is what makes this really hard to guard. When we have 5, 6, 7 guys in double digits, it really makes us a hard team to guard. And so I think seeing that, it was kind of the Cade show on Friday night, and it was fun to watch him perform. And man, he's becoming a superstar right before our very eyes and just becoming one of those unstoppable players. And he's only 25. So the ceiling is so high. So again, we're going to talk about some things that Cade didn't do and some things that he's got to continue to improve upon. But, man, you can't blame the loss on Cade. He did everything he could to put us in a position to win. Our field goal percentage from the floor was only 44%, not indicative of a winning team. Our three-point percentage was 39%. We were 11 for 28 from three. So actually 3 games in a row where we've hit 11 threes, but our three-point shooting was a little bit better. JD, I don't know if you've noticed this, but JD is getting stripped a lot. Early in the season, he get that ball down low and he's going up strong. He's holding the ball tight. And I don't know what it is, but the last couple games, I don't know if he's putting it down too low or if guys have identified a weakness, but he's getting that ball stripped from him a lot when he's going down low. So JD's really got to take care of that ball, hold on to that tight. He's such a massive beast down low, so he's just going to have to learn to grab that ball and really protect it. His free throw percentage is really starting to struggle. At one point, he was like 87% earlier in the season, just shooting really well. He was our highest free throw percentage shooter, and now he's down around 76%. So he's going to really have to continue to improve on that. Of course, 76 is not terrible for a big man, of course, but just something he needs to continue to improve on. Of course, we're seeing that teams are starting to really pack the paint. They see JD as a legitimate threat, Beef Stew as a legitimate threat, and they recognize that our three-point shooting is not really a big threat right now. And so teams are starting to pack it in the paint. We've seen several defensive 3 seconds get called in our favor because teams are recognizing we're going to pack the paint, which makes it harder for Cade to drive, makes it harder for us to get it to the big men, meaning we got to start hitting outside shots, which pulls the defense out, creates that space that we need, and that's where a guy last year like Beasley really, really helped Tim Hardaway Jr., and we're seeing Duncan Robinson shoot it pretty consistently, but nobody else is really shooting the three ball super consistently, and so teams are catching on to that, and that's making our interior offense very, very difficult. Asar was in foul trouble all night. I think he only played 20 minutes, and so that allowed Desmond Bane to just go off. I mean, Desmond Bane looked like him. I mean, he looked good. He had 37 points, seemed unstoppable. Of course, having Asar out there when he was in was able to, minimize his effectiveness a little bit more, but he kept getting in foul trouble, and so that hurt. Ron Holland only had 9 minutes. Javonte Green only had 10 minutes. I would have liked to have seen Ron Holland on Desmond Bane a little bit. I think he could have really slowed him down, or even Javonte Green. Both of these guys, really strong defensive players, and our defense wasn't going great. Ron typically can create a spark. We saw on Saturday night's game against Miami, we saw flashes of old Ron. He had a good game and brought that energy and that spark, but I'd love to have maybe see him have more of an opportunity to say, hey, go in and shut down Desmond Bane. I think he would have been up for the task, at least more than everybody else was doing. Beef Stew only had 14 minutes, also in foul trouble quite a bit, so not having him on the interior was tough, and even with his limited minutes, Paul Reed only saw the floor for just a few minutes. Actually, I don't even think Paul Reed went into the game. I don't have it right in front of me, but the interior, we got drove on a lot. Of course, Orlando was also not a good three-point shooting team. So in my opinion, I would have loved to have seen JD and Stu in there together more to kind of cut down on those drives that they kept getting. But just didn't happen for us. And every time we made a little run, they'd get a couple shots. And it was just tough. We never really could seem to get over the hump with them after we lost that lead. Ivy only had 10 minutes. He didn't look too great on Friday night, but he's getting comfortable. Listen, I realize he's on a minutes restriction, but he's going to have to see more than 10 minutes if we want to work him back into what he was before. And so I really would like to see Ivy. Number one, I'd like to see him be the first guy off the bench. They had Karras come in first, and I understand Karras hits buckets from time to time. I'm still going to hold to this. I know some of you are going to come after me in the comments, but I'm still going to hold that when Karras is in the game, our momentum stops. The ball movement stops. It's a lot of isolation, a lot of dribble. I'm a Michigan fan. I love Karras because of his roots, but I'm also a basketball guy, coached for a long time, and I just think Karras is disrupting the chemistry. He's just not the right guy. Again, I'm not saying get rid of him now, but we know that Jaden Ivey, we know the potential he has. We know he needs to be developed. I would love to see him starting to ramp up. His first game back, he had 15, then it was 13, then it was 10. So it's like we're ramping him down. I understand these have been close games, but I'd like to see him in there in those clutch times to really get more comfortable, get a flow with the team. I'd like to see him play a little more with that first unit. Again, if this is the plan to work him back in. But Karras was first off the bench, played 24 minutes, virtually unimpactful. He was 2 for 7, and honestly, he was getting cooked on D. I mean, whoever he was guarding, whether it was Desmond Bane or Jalen Suggs, he was getting cooked. And so it just wasn't a good night for Karras, all right? For those of you who are Karras lovers, I say it how I see it. This is not me hating. I have no reason to want to hate on Karras LeVert, but it wasn't his night. And I gave him props the other night when he had a good game, and I always will. I'll always shoot straight, but he just wasn't it. And I just think we went to him too much. Franz Wagner with 22 points, another Michigan man. He had a few big ones down the stretch, though. He got some buckets when they needed them, some tough buckets. Hated seeing him score, but also as a Michigan fan, you love to see him continue to develop, just not against our Pistons, right? But he had some big buckets down the stretch. Of course, Jalen Suggs had that one stretch where he hits a big three, talks smack to Cade, steals the ball from Cade, comes down and hits another big three, and just got in Cade's face and makes you hate that guy even more. Let me know in the comments what you think of Jalen Suggs. Not a fan of his. Love that block that Cade had on him in that first matchup after he was talking smack. But then he comes back and he does that, so he's backing it up a little bit. You got to respect that. But next time we play Orlando, we got to shut him down because he is annoying to watch. I think the real story of the game, 24 turnovers. It's tough to win a game, especially when it's a good team. When they catch a little momentum, it's tough to win with 24 turnovers. So we got to take care of the ball. And I 100% am convinced that one of the reasons we're struggling with turnovers is too much rotation and chemistry, and guys aren't knowing how to find each other in their spots. And, again, I understand early season, a lot of guys that have ability, and we're trying to figure out who works with who. But, we're getting to that point where we really need to start figuring this out. And I think it's creating a lot of just lack of chemistry, and it's some tough moments for us. Of course, Cade missed some big free throws again down the stretch. Cade's free throw shooting percentage this year is I think he's 83%, 82%, somewhere around there. You can let me know in the comments what it is exactly. I could look it up, but he's only like a percentage point less than he was last year. So it's not like he's shooting terribly from the free throw line, but he's missing big ones at the wrong time when we need him. And so I know Cade's going to get in the lab. I know he's going to figure it out, but we need him hitting those big free throws down the stretch, as he's going to be the guy at the line, and we need to be able to trust that he can hit those in the moment. Of course, we remember Wednesday night where he missed that third one that could have put us in overtime. And so tough, missed free throws. And then, in the fourth quarter, we were down maybe 10, didn't have a ton of momentum. And we come out in the fourth quarter with this lineup. I was at the game, and I wrote this down because I'm like, what are we doing to start the fourth quarter, which typically has been one of our better quarters of the season. And we started with Duncan Robinson, Jaden Ivey, Tobias Harris, Paul Reed, and Karras LeVert. And so my thought is like, okay, our interior protection is limited to really just Paul Reed, which, I love Paul, but he hadn't played much at all that game, so he did actually see the court. I do remember, I think it was maybe 8 minutes. It was very limited. But we came out with this kind of smaller athletic lineup, and it didn't help us. They struggled, and they kept those guys in till like the 7 or 8 minute mark. And so it really... I understand giving guys a rest and letting them, take a breath. You can't let Cade can't play 48 minutes, but we let those guys sit too long, in my opinion. When they came back, it took us a minute to ramp up, and we finally made that run at the end where we came all the way back and tied it. All had our opportunities to win. Of course, the turnovers, the missed free throws hurt us. Those big threes at the end. So again, that lineup I didn't really understand. I know JB was questioned about some of his lineups, and he's talking about these guys have speed or they're in there for defense to offense. So again, as a coach, I understand that JB knows his personnel better than any of us. He's working through some things he's trying to figure out. So I don't want to question why he's doing everything too much, but I'm just observing that it doesn't seem like these rotations are working in some serious times in the game, some very important times in the game. And so I understand a lot of these guys are just kind of on automated, like you come in at the 6-minute mark, you come in at the 4-minute mark, and it's just kind of guys come in. But I think there has to be more situational coaching where it's like, all right, who's the personnel they have on the floor? That's going to determine the personnel that I have on the floor, and kind of, strategic subbing against the other coach, or, proactively subbing against the other coach, as opposed to just going through a rotation that was kind of preconceived before the game started to make sure guys have their minutes that they're supposed to have. And so those are some things that I think we got to work through. And then, of course, that last minute where we're down 2, I think, and they got 3 offensive rebounds that went from them having the ball at the 1-minute and 6-second mark all the way down. We didn't get the ball back till under 10 seconds because they kept getting rebounds. And, of course, those were all threes, which why Orlando kept jacking up threes when they had the lead, I couldn't understand for the life of me. So I thought, we're playing good defense. We had these great defensive possessions, and then they shoot it, they don't get the rebound. And we have another great defensive possession. They shoot it, don't get the rebound. Then another one, and then they don't get it. And at the stadium, the crowd was just going nuts. We were losing it. You can imagine the emotions of being at the game. And so at some point, you're like, grab the rebound. Now, you heard Cade talk about it after the game. He says, we feel that. He goes, we wonder, like, if we could have sold out a little bit more and go get some of those rebounds. So he gets it. But listen, that's how it goes sometimes. A long shot makes a long rebound. Guys are boxing out down low. It bounces over. And so those things happen. But, man, that was tough to watch getting that. And then, man, the officials. I don't want to blame a loss on officials. Do I think officials can affect the outcome of the game? Of course. Do I think they affected the outcome of this game? I don't want to blame the loss on the officials, because the game should never come down to one call or one missed call. So I don't want to say it was the officials' fault. That's not my style. I do think officials have determined outcomes before. We won't even get into the Tim Hardaway foul from last year in the playoffs, or non-call that cost us that game against New York. But certainly there were some bad calls. I mean, watching it in person and seeing the replay on the screen, there were some bad calls. There were a couple challenges that the other team, the other coach called for a challenge, and we looked at it on the screen and thought there's no way it's getting overturned, and they got overturned. And the reffing was just awful. Let me just say that. And I don't want to necessarily say it was one-sided, but, you heard JB talk about there was no consistency to it. So what calls were being called on one side or during the first quarter or second quarter weren't being called in other quarters, and it just makes it very hard for guys to know what's going to be allowed. Obviously, different officiating crews allow different things. And there were a lot of fouls called against us down the stretch that when you watch the replay just were not fouls, but these guys were flopping. Desmond Bane and Jalen Suggs and these guys, they were flopping so hard. And why would they not? Because the refs are rewarding it. And, man, I hate it as a basketball fan watching that. I've seen so many times over the years where they say, we're gonna eliminate flopping. We're going to get rid of it. We're not going to allow it. We're going to call it. And then we'll do it for a half a year, and then they stop doing it. And watching guys just throw themselves to the ground when there's no contact and then getting the whistle, it's so frustrating as a fan. And, sometimes like, man, maybe Cade just needs to learn, because Cade will go in strong and you see the contact, he doesn't get the call because he doesn't flop himself to the ground. And you see guys like Jalen Brunson and Shane Gilgeous-Alexander, the league's 2 greatest foul merchants, foul baiters, whatever you want to call them. You see those guys getting rewarded. And so part of you is like, man, it sucks to watch that, but it's also like, they're smart for doing what the refs, they're getting to the line, right? And so the refs are giving to them. Why not? I'm glad that our guy's not like that, Cade, but man, I also wonder sometimes like maybe Cade's going to have to learn how to sell the call a little bit better because we're just not getting some of the calls that these other teams get. Now, Wednesday night, I felt like we did get a lot of those calls. So it can vary from night to night with different officiating crews. This crew particularly did not seem to they did not seem to be on the side of the Pistons. Not that the refs should be on the side of either team, but just made a lot of bad calls. And I'm going to do an episode here. I'm doing a lot of research right now on officiating in the NBA. So coming up very shortly, I'm going to do an episode where a whole segment we're going to do on officiating, and mostly about the fact that there just seems to be no consequences, right? The NBA will release a statement. We did the 2-minute review of the last 2 minutes, and we realized there were this many calls missed, and we're sorry we got it wrong. Well, then nothing happens. We still lost the game. You know, after Tim Hardaway's non-call last year, they issue a statement. Yeah, we got that one wrong. And so then what? We lose that game. There's nothing happened, and there's no consequences. And so I'm going to propose a system that the NBA could have adopted, whether they'll probably never would listen to me. They probably would never happen, but a very, I think, simple way of incentivizing good officiating and penalizing poor officiating or biased officiating that could really help these games run smoother and get the best officials out there. Because in any other career that you choose, if you have poor performance regularly, then you get penalized. And it seems like in the NBA that just doesn't happen. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the flopping, but we'll save that for another day. I did find this interesting, though. David Guthrie, this is reported by Pistons Talk. David Guthrie was seen, he's the official, he was seen laughing after giving Cade a technical foul. Cade got his first technical of the year. And coincidentally, this was the same official that missed the Tim Hardaway Jr. three-point attempt versus the Knicks in the playoffs last season. So he gives Cade a T. He walks away. He's got a kind of a smirk laugh on his face. And listen, it's a freeze frame. Maybe it's just it's just a moment. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But it makes you wonder, these guys, they missed that call. The NBA issues a statement that the call was missed. They get just absolutely obliterated in the media, especially in Detroit media, about the bias. They hear all the things online. And you know that stuff's in their mind. That's a very human reaction to come into the stadium realizing, like, okay, I remember, and just doing those kind of things to be like, hey, I'm in charge. They get this kind of complex, like they're better than the rest of us, or they're levitating above the rest of us, like they're some higher power. And as a guy who's dealt with officials, high school officials, for 10 years, it is very frustrating to me when I come across an official that is not approachable and doesn't allow you to have a conversation with them and kind of has this aura of, I'm more important than you, I have more authority than you. You know, it's like, hey man, we're two grown men here. We can have a conversation man to man. Some officials will and some don't, and I just think it's absolutely poor and ridiculous, and we're seeing it happen at the NBA level. So stay tuned. I'm going to talk about that here probably within the next week or so, and we're going to break down my opinions on NBA officiating as well as WNBA officiating. I watched a lot of WNBA this year as well, and I think it's even worse than the WNBA. But we'll get into that. So that's the Magic game, a long breakdown, tough loss. But let's get into the Heat game. We come back Saturday night on the road, back-to-back, and we pull off a win, 138-135. So 3 games in a row where the game is decided by 3 points. And these types of close, emotional games, they are exhausting. They are fatiguing. And the last 6 games against the Heat have come down to 1 possession. And there's no reason that game should have come down to 1 possession. Obviously, we're up by 22 points with 8 minutes to go, led by as many as, I think, 28 in that game. Should have never let it get that close. But, man, Miami made a big run at the end, and we did not, and our defense kind of collapsed, and they hit big shots. They forced a lot of turnovers. Mitchell had Cade's number there for a minute on defense, stripping the ball and making some big steals, making some big plays. We only played 10 guys Saturday night. Of course, JD was out, Karras was out, so we only played 10 guys. and I kind of liked it. I kind of liked seeing a 10-man rotation, and we had 10 guys played, all 10 guys scored, and then we had 5 guys in double digits, and we had 4 more guys with 9 points. So a true team effort, 5 guys in double digits, 4 guys with 9, and we had 6 guys in double digits, and then 3 with 9. So a full team effort is what I was trying to say. So we had basically 9 guys that scored 9 points or more. That was a really hard way of saying what I was trying to say. And so, we bounced back, got the win. Cade had 29 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. 8 assists, 4 rebounds. And then Tobias Harris. What a game Tobias had. 26 points on 10 for 12 shooting. And Uncle Toby he was in his bag, right? He was feeling it. He had a great game. Had several points with his back to the basket. Playing really physical on defense. Going up really strong on offense. And Tobias had just a phenomenal game. Looked like the Tobias of old there on Saturday night. Asar Thompson had a good game, 10 points on 5 of 9 shooting, played great defense. Good game for Asar. But can I just say one thing? Has anyone else noticed that we cannot throw a lob to Asar Thompson? We can get the lobs to JD, but every time we try to throw a lob to Asar Thompson, we either throw it too high or throw it past him. I don't know what that is because he can jump out of the gym. I don't know if guys are just overestimating, underestimating, but let me know in the comments if you noticed we have not been able to throw a lob to Asar Thompson. Our field goal percentage was 59%, so much better shooting. 3-point percentage was 42%. We were 11 for 26 from the field. Again, 3 games in a row with 11 threes, but a much higher percentage. Obviously, Duncan Robinson had a great game, homecoming, 18 points, played good defense. Man, Duncan Robinson's defense has really, watching him in years past, I didn't feel like he was a strong defender. That was one of the things I was worried about. But he's really kind of adopted this hard-nosed, gritty Detroit defense. And he's playing some good defense, drawing a ton of charges and just making big plays when it matters. And so, great game by Duncan Robinson. Paul Reed, my man, B-Ball Paul, had 19 minutes, of course, with JD out. He saw the court more. 19 minutes, 13 points. It was 5 of 9 shooting, and he had 10 rebounds. So a double-double for B-Ball Paul. And, man, doesn't B-Ball Paul he's just ready when he comes in the game. And he is impacting the game when he comes in, getting rebounds against 7-footers and putbacks and taking care of the ball, not turning it over, hit a big 3, and just creates a spark. And, man, last year I was so against, Paul Reed. Every time he come in the game, I'm like, why are we playing this guy? But Paul Reed, I don't know if he just got in the lab. I don't know if he just got in the lab this summer and put in work, but he just looks like a different guy out there, so controlled. And I think he needs to see the court more. And he gives us really, really good minutes. And, his name wasn't called much in the last 2 games, but he just comes in ready. No complaints, and just gives us a big spark and really was a true difference maker down the stretch in that game. Another one, Dennis Jenkins with 9 points. He didn't see a lot of minutes the last 2 games, but he came in. He was 2 for 4 with 9 points. 15 minutes, had that huge clutch layup at the end. Hit some clutch free throws down the stretch. And I'm telling you, man, this guy has got something. And I want to hear from you. Do you think Dennis Jenkins has got something? He just seems like a Detroit guy. And Paul Reed. And I think as we begin to narrow down this rotation, those are 2 guys that got to see more consistent minutes. I'm going to give you at the end what I think, again, we should be looking at here. Ivy looked better. Again, I still think he needs more minutes. But he looked better, had some good buckets, much faster on defense, actually had some good defensive moments. And so down the stretch, missed a lot of free throws. We missed 5 in the last 2 minutes that were important to the game. Cade had some bad turnovers and key moments. He kept getting stripped when he would try to do the little spin move. And so, they came all the way back and gave themselves a chance to win. We were able to pull it off. Cade hit a big clutch shot in the end. Of course, Dennis Jenkins hit that big shot. You saw Cade point over at the crowd. Somebody was talking some smack to Cade in the crowd, and Cade made sure to let him know about it when he hit that shot. But a win is a win, right? It wasn't always pretty, but they asked JB about it. He said these guys played last night and then get on a plane at midnight, get to the hotel at like 4 in the morning, and then come play a back-to-back game like that with a limited roster and to gut out a win against Miami, who's a good team in Miami. It was a good win for us. And, there was a statistic put out that the Pistons' clutch time net rating is almost 50%. So in clutch time, they're at 50%, which is 14 points higher than the next team, Oklahoma City Thunder, which is at 36.3%. So we've actually been really, really good down the stretch. Again, Wednesday and Friday weren't able to get it done down the stretch, and we kind of fell apart in the last 6 minutes of this game, but pulled out the win. And again, I think these close, tough, tight games, they're going to build character. They're going to build resiliency. They're going to build some toughness in these guys. These are great experiences. I'm telling you right now, even if it means we're going to lose some games here in the regular season, it's part of it. These ups and downs of these guys going through it and teams bringing them their best effort is going to build a character in these guys that's really going to help us come playoff time, because, again, one of our biggest challenges is these guys aren't tested yet in the trenches, and playoff basketball is always different. And so, JB was on the press conference describing the back-to-back. They asked him about the lineup of Dennis, J.I., Ron Holland, and Paul Reed. And they asked him about, what was your thoughts there? And he said, those guys are defensive guys. They're guys that are going to get out and play hard on defense and turn defense into offense. But sometimes there's some of those lineups where I'm just like, I don't know who's supposed to be the scorer in that lineup. But, we got the win. So, but here's the thing that I think this is why a lot of the analysts and a lot of the experts are saying Detroit needs another guy. And, we are, as fans, we love the experiment. We want to give this team time. We want to allow it to develop and grow. And I'm still on that team of like, let's let it play out. But it's moments like this where analysts say, hey, you have a night where Cade has the 39-point triple-double and nobody else really is there to help him. Tobias had 18, JD had 16, and that's about it. And so he needs that second option as teams begin to hone in on like, hey, if we just stop Cade, and one of the things that's made it so tough this year is how we have so many options. But on nights where some of these guys just can't get it done, it begs the question, like, who's going to be the other that steps up? And so this is why you hear a lot of people talking about it. This is why you hear a lot of the trade rumors. And, of course, I've talked about every single one on this podcast, and I've told you my opinion, my honest opinion on every single one. I haven't been for one. I haven't heard of one yet that made me think that's what the move is. Do we need to make a move before the trade deadline? I think there probably will need to be something. But what that is, I don't think anybody knows right now. And so, again, patience is the answer, in my opinion. There's still time for me to believe that Jaden Ivey is that guy, that he could be that second option for us. But we got to start giving him more minutes. And so hopefully the people handling him will open that up to let him get some more minutes, open it up from 15 to 20 and so on. And we don't want to see him going back. We want to see him going forward. And then I don't know if you saw, but Tobias, after the end of the game, he said, hey, we're starting a new win streak right now. So win number 1, we got Atlanta tonight. And so let's get number 2. And let's keep the momentum going. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about JB and his challenges. Have you noticed this year that we are not having success with challenging calls? The tracking on this is very limited, but one report says that JB's success rate so far this season is 20% on challenges, which is tough. It seems to me like I can only remember, and I'm sure there's more, I can only remember one challenge that we've won this year, maybe 2. And sometimes the point in the game when we're challenging, I don't understand. And the call that we're challenging, I don't understand. And I think this is something that JB's got to figure out, because it seems like a lot of the coaches on the other teams, when they make a challenge, it's getting overturned and they're having more success, which are key moments in some of these games. And so I think it's something that him and the staff have to get better at figuring out when to challenge and what is challenge worthy, so that we start to win more of these. Because, you know, when you are effective with a good challenge, when you have a challenge that is successful, number one, it helps you preserve key possessions in the game. Like, it helps you hold on to a possession that maybe was at a moment where we were gaining momentum, or a moment where the other team was gaining momentum, and it was something that really kind of changed that for us. So we got to win these, because they usually are momentum shifters in the game. Again, they create momentum swings. They save our late game timeouts. When we use those early and they don't get it, we risk having timeouts. And we also risk we don't get another challenge for the rest of the game. And so then you get down the stretch and there's a bad call, and you know it's a bad call, and you know it'd be overturned, but we can't challenge because we used it early and it wasn't a good one. And then I think it builds players' confidence in the coaching staff to realize they're attentive to details. You know, one of the things I hate the most in the NBA is it seems like every single call you got a guy doing this. And I think the way to solve that is, if a guy does this, it's a challenge. If you see a guy do this, it's a timeout no matter what, right? And so if you started saying every time a guy does this, it's a challenge, I think that would stop the guys from doing that so much. It seems a little whiny to me at times. There are certainly times where it needs to happen, but it's like every single call these guys are doing this. But I think when the players see the coach being disciplined about when we're going to challenge and when we're not, and that when I challenge, it means I'm confident that's going to get overturned, I'm confident that was a bad call, it instills confidence in the players that coach has got this, he's attentive to details. But you see a lot of these coaches or players just really dictating to the coach when they should do it. The other thing I think is that it builds confidence with the officials. When you're challenging calls that are consistently getting overturned, it tells the officials you're not just being a whiny coach, but you're actually seeing something that they might have missed, and I think it builds a little bit more respect and rapport. And then obviously the cons of wasting your challenges is, you know, obviously you're wasting a timeout for that late game time. It's disrupting the team rhythm. It slows down momentum. Of course, every challenge is, you know, 3 to 5 minutes of just sitting and waiting, and so it disrupts the rhythm. It fails to protect players when they need a challenge later in the game, like we just said. And I think it undermines the players' trust in their coaches. Like, they start to see, like, man, coach is calling challenges when we don't need them. And then most importantly, I think really when you have a coach like JB, who I love JB as a coach. He is our guy. This is not a criticism of him as a coach, but I think he's got to get better. We all have to improve in areas, and I think one area that he has to improve is in this area of challenges. And I think he loses some credibility when he loses so many of these challenges, and maybe his lack of credibility is causing him to lose some of these challenges. And so I think he's got to figure out how to get on the right side of the officials. As I've said on this podcast before, I was a high school basketball coach for 10 years. You see back there, I got 2 state championship trophies. I've been to 4 state championships. I've won 2 as the assistant coach on a girls varsity basketball team. I've won another 2 state championships. And so I know what it takes to win. Again, high school level, NBA level, 2 different things. I get it. So this is not me trying to say, hey, me and JB are, you know, on any sort of equal plane here. But I understand basketball, and I understand winning, and I understand what it takes, and I understand coaching, but I really understand what it means to figure it out with officials. My first year coaching high school basketball, I had 7 or 8 technicals my first year. I argued constantly. I was so passionate about the game, and you know, I was constantly in the ear of the officials and arguing and this you know, you can't challenge in high school, but just constantly challenging the calls that they're making and saying things and just being disrespectful, if I'm being honest. and got 7 technicals. And our school administrator actually came to me and just said, hey, we're not going to do this. We're not going to have this many technicals. And I also realized that my first year coaching, we made it to the state championship. And we were up by 15 points with 6 minutes to go in the game. And we were in foul trouble the whole game. Matter of fact, the game ended, the fouls were 37-12. I still have the book that the officials signed, 37-12, 37 fouls against us, 12 against the other team. And I was in the officials' ear the entire game. We ended up having 6 players foul out. All 5 of my starters and my 6th man fouled out. We finished the game with like kids that had never seen the court all season, just because we needed 5 guys on the court. And we ended up losing by 2 points. So we blew a 15-point lead in the last 6 minutes. And it was such a learning experience for me, because I realized my yelling at the officials and constantly being in these ears of them, it caused my players to question the officials, and it caused my fans to constantly be booing the officials. And if you've been in the Detroit arena, it's refs, you suck every single time they make a call. And I think these refs come into Detroit and they're like, I'm not dealing with this. And we are not on the side of the officials. We are not getting the 50-50 calls. There's no grace being shown to us. And I realized that when I get the ref in a bad way early on, it's only going to hurt us down the stretch. And so I started to learn how to work with the officials, and even how to get on their good side by going up to them before the game, having a conversation, introducing myself, asking them how they would like to be addressed when I have a call that's questionable. In my second year, I got 1 technical, and then I had like a 5-year stretch where I got 0 technicals. That second year, we won the state championship, by the way. Had a 5-year stretch where I got 0, and then I think in the last few years I coached maybe 1 or 2 total. And I will tell you that when you are not constantly questioning every single call, it does give you a little more grace to ask a question or deal with something later. Now, I've still had some officials that were just blatantly wrong. I had an official literally ask me if I wanted to go out in the parking lot after the game, which is nuts. You know, should not be officiating high school if that's kind of the mentality you're going to take. My point is this, that JB, when you watch him, I love how passionate he is. I love the energy he brings to the game, and I love that it permeates down to our guys. You love that, so I don't want him to change that. But JB argues almost every call, and when I watch basketball, especially when I'm in the arena, I watch the coaches a lot, because I'm trying to learn like how they're behaving, how they're substituting, how they're playing off each other, how they're communicating with their players. And I will tell you, JB is in the officials' ears every time they run by him. He's saying something, and he's questioning. Whenever someone's shooting free throws, he's there, and he's got his arms crossed, and he's saying, oh, that's terrible, and why? And I just think the officials get tired of hearing it. And I agree that Detroit, in my whole life, it's that whole Detroit versus everybody. It doesn't seem like we get fair officiating. Maybe every fan base feels that way, but I personally feel like there are times where the officiating that we're seeing is terrible. And I think if JB doesn't figure out like, hey, I got to pick my battles here. I got to figure out when's it worth me really being in the ear, and when's it with me just saying, all right, we got to play through this. Because there is an element of basketball that your players have to know. The officials are human. They're going to miss calls, and sometimes we just got to play through it. And we got to play with what they're giving us. And so, you know, that would be my advice to JB. Not that he cares at all what I would say, but I think JB has got to learn how to get on the right side of the officials, because it is not helping our case. It is not helping us as we go into games. And we had these questionable calls, and we're just not winning challenges, and we're not getting them. And so I want to round this episode off with, you know, talk about this rotations. This has been a long one, so I'm going to be quick here. But, you know, still running with this 11, 12-man rotation. And I think these rotation issues continue to impact the rhythm of our players. I don't know if you saw this. Yesterday, it was reported that Marcus Sasser has now been assigned to the the Drive, the G League team, the Motor City Drive, and which means probably within the next week we're going to see him on the court. And so now we have another guy that we got to figure out, how does he fit? And Sasser is Mr. Instant Offense. Like, he can come in and score some buckets, but where do we put him? What does that mean for Dennis Jenkins? What does that mean for Jaden Ivey? What does that mean for Karis LeVert? How do we rotate these guys in here? I think we have to figure this out. In my opinion, 10 is a good number, especially in the regular season. You got a couple guys that are just going to get minutes. You know, they're like the human victory cigar when we're either getting blown out or we're blowing a team out. But then you have your 10 guys who are your consistent rotation guys who you're developing for the end of the season and trying to determine, are we going to keep them through the trade deadline? Are we going to make a move? And so, you know, my recommendation is eventually, once we get Jaden Ivey fully, you know, back to health and ready to go, I think I'd like to see Cade. I've said this before, Cade at the point, J.I. at the 2, or they can, you know, those two are kind of interchangeable. I'd like to see Asar and then JD and Beef Stew down low. I think Stew, with his three-point shooting this year, he spreads the floor. I think he can guard a big stretch 4. He can guard like a Karl Anthony Towns who likes to shoot threes. He can guard an Anthony Davis who kind of goes out. Some of these other players in the league that create problems outside. And then because Tobias is a shot maker, he can create his own shot. I think we let him kind of be the general of that second unit. And in my opinion, that second unit looks like this. Dennis Jenkins at the point, Duncan Robinson at the 2, and then you got Tobias, Ron, and Paul Reed. And that gives Paul Reed and Dennis Jenkins some real minutes where they're coming in. I'm not saying all 5 of those guys need to be together, but that's kind of our second unit. And that leaves us with, you got Karis. What do we do with him? What do we do with Javonte Green? What do we do with Marcus Sasser? And what if we get Beasley back? Obviously, you have Bobby Klintman, who's been hurt, but when he comes back. And so there's questions to be answered. I don't fully have the answer. If you were to ask me today what I would do, those would be the 10 guys I would say we're moving forward with these guys. And let's see how they do going into the trade deadline. You know, I'm not saying we don't play Karis LeVert at all or Javonte Green. I love Javonte, man. I think Javonte fits our team, but he's older, and it's either really him or Ron Holland. And I think Ron has way more upside potential. And so we got to build for the future. And so, you know, Javonte might be one of those guys that we don't invest a lot of time and effort into because we're really building for the future. And Ron really has the potential to be a future real big contributor to our team. And that's the same thing I think with Dennis and Paul Reed. I think all of these are guys that we could really build around. And so either way, we got to figure it out. I truly believe that this amount of rotation we're doing, the amount of substituting we're doing, it's causing guys to get out of rhythm. And then they come in for these short 4-minute stints. And if you've played ball, and I've played a lot of basketball, and I've coached a lot of basketball, guys cannot stay in rhythm or get in rhythm in a 4 or 5 minute stretch. They need to be out on the court, running up and down and getting into the flow of the offense. And so at times where you see our offense look so discombobulated and just all over the place, I think it's because of these rotations. So let me know your thoughts on that. Do you agree with me? Do you think that, what do you think about my rotation suggestion? I'd love to hear your comments and let me know if you think good, bad, horrible, this is terrible. Hey, I love the comments. I love hearing from you guys. And as you see, I'm interacting with you guys. So let me hear your honest thoughts. I'm always going to give you my honest opinion. And so please do the same. Tonight we got Atlanta wearing the City Edition jerseys with that sweet City Edition court. Back in Detroit, Atlanta is 12-8. Good team in the East. They don't have Porzingis still. Trae Young is still out. They've actually been playing better without Trae Young, I think. So it'll be a tough game tonight. Last time we played them, we won 120-112. So it'll be a tough game. I'll let you know tomorrow my thoughts about the game. Hopefully it's win number 2 in a row for the Detroit Pistons, and we just continue to work this a new winning streak up. And let's go for 14 this time since we stopped at 13, and let's see where we can go. So Let me know your thoughts about our games, the loss against the Magic, the win against the Heat. What were your thoughts? Give me your thoughts about this ideas that I gave about JB and the challenges. We're losing the challenges and him getting on the bad side of the officials. Do you agree? Do you think it's awesome seeing his passion? I mean, I love his passion. Same thing with Dan Campbell. Like, I love the passion of our guys. But again, I think in some ways it's playing against JB's favor. And so let me know your thoughts on that. And then these rotation issues that I'm going to continue to talk about that will continue to be an issue for us, which is going to continue to lead to trade rumors. And I'm going to bring all of it to you straight here at Pistons Daily. But I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know what your thoughts are about these rotations and what guys need more minutes, what guys need less minutes, and how do we do this going into the future, and how do we build that solid playoff team that takes us all the way, even this year. So that's all I got for you today. Remember, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Hit that notification bell so that you can be made aware when we bring you fresh Pistons content. And as always, Detroit basketball. Let's go, baby.